that sun is going to be at this time,
Yeah,
or
true.
it's going to be a bit hot in this
Yeah,
area.
Uganda's weather is sometimes
it's
unpredictable.
like rainy, eh?
Yeah, it's
every
rainy,
year,
true.
every year, out in and out. So you can't grow coffee in a hot area because you can't have a season. But for the farmers, they know, this season it's going to be hot for like 2 months.
Yeah.
So the next season it's going to be hot like for 6 months or 7 months.
Yeah.
So they will use that opportunity to grow coffee from the 3rd month to the maybe the 7th month, so that these other 2 months that are going to come in, they won't affect these 2 months that are very hot. So they know how they do their things in the farm, and understand each period or each season better on how to grow coffee. And one good thing about coffee is the moment you have your coffee plant come up and it's well good looking, it's giving you those green cherries, it's giving you red cherries to harvest. I mean, it's just a matter of like pruning, cutting it off, like shaping it well, and it will give you
a good yield.
Yeah, like to yield again, not like cutting it down forever and plant another one.
No. So it regrows.
Yeah, it regrows.
Okay.
It regrows.
That's
so you can have like 4 harvests.
From just one planting?
Yeah, from one planting.
Okay.
Before you decide like, let me remove this coffee tree and plant another one. So that's one good thing about coffee.
Okay. Yeah, so now we've got the farmer's part. Let's say, I've taken my 6 months, 4 months or 1 year.
Yeah.
My coffee beans are out. Okay, now what is the next, what's the next thing in the chain? Because now the chain has to go down to the final consumer. Okay, so after the farmers have done their part, okay, what next? Okay, how do we, from harvesting these coffee beans, okay, do we take them to such an industry, or do we take them under, drying under the sun? What happens between the farmers and the final product?
Well, one thing is, you've heard about the term coffee chain.
Yeah.
A coffee chain is that whole process of growing coffee. Let me use the term a coffee to tree cup, tree to cup.
Tree to cup.
Yeah,
yes.
tree to cup process. You grow coffee from the farm, but it ends up in a cup somewhere. But you don't know how it ended there. You're just having your cup of coffee, drinking it.
True.
So your question is, what is next after farming? So farmers do their role of growing coffee, looking after coffee. But there are also the buyers that buy this coffee from the farmers. So that's where we're going to have the bad buyers, the good buyers, the ones that kuchupula, the farmers, But as you're buying this coffee, the graders, like within these buyers, they grade coffee, how good it is from the farm. So after them buying the coffee, that's how they bring it to the market.
Okay.
So if they buy the coffee maybe from the Rwenzori region and bring it to Kampala right here, I'll also buy that coffee from them at a different price, depending on how you negotiate. So after buying this coffee, I'll have to decide on how to use it.
Okay.
Am I going to roast it and brew it to have this cup of coffee, or I'm going to use this these beans already? They call them green, but they're not green in color after harvesting, but they're called green beans because they haven't been roasted or they haven't been processed. So am I going to use these green beans to use them as a decor or use them as a scrubbing material? Because
can use them for scrubbing?
Coffee can be used to make very many things. So it depends from the buyer, how is he going to use this coffee. So if he's going to use it for making beverages like these ones, he's going to go to a roaster. From a roaster, when they have roasted that coffee, is going to go to the cupper, because you have to cup that coffee to see how is it scoring. Is it going to be a good cup of coffee because you're roasting it because you want to drink it, because you can't drink unroasted coffee. It's like checking, I don't know if some of you have taken the chigaji, like it's chimemeruka, I don't know that word in English.
So we'll get a subtitle.
So like, if you've roasted that coffee, it's easier for you to pound it or grind it and make a beverage from it. So after roasting it, you cup it to see how is it going to score. How is my cup of coffee going to taste, So after cupping it, that's how you get to the brewing process. But also the brewing process, after brewing it, there are a lot of to to get benefits from these coffee residues that you've brewed coffee from.
Okay.
Because you can use them as fertilizers, so it goes back to the farmer.
Yeah.
So you see, that's how the coffee
like
chain.
A cycle that goes
it's
back.
a very big cycle
right.
comes along with coffee.
Okay.
So that's the process.
So you said coffee is not only drunk; it can be used for other things.
Yeah.
For example, you said for cleaning. So apart from drinking and cleaning, what are the other uses we can have for coffee? Because I believe that also provides a bigger market for the person growing it, for the farmer. Okay, if I cannot only send it to the baristas and the roasters, but I can also sell it to other industries that are doing different things. So what are those other different things that we can do with coffee?
Well, coffee, one thing is you can use it for decor because it's classy, it's well looking. I mean, if you have your bucket of coffee here and there are those green beans, someone comes and like they're touching them, that's decor already. That's one use. The second, we've been talking about the health benefits of coffee here in the show. So most of you know the health benefits. It has health benefits. The third is the coffee husks after grinding them. I mean, after milling them or pulping them, there are those coffee husks that come after getting the coffee bean or that ground bean. One, it can be used as poultry feeds, just like the way you can see growing maize grain. Husks. They can be mashed and
for the poultry.
For the poultry. Same applies to the coffee. Third, you can use or you can keep those coffee pulped residues or cherries to manure up and use them as manure. So you see how you're getting it's like recycling a bottle and you use it again over and over without like throwing away the products. And the other thing I talked about, scrubbing. You've gone to a salon or you've gone to a spa and they scrub you. So someone might decide to choose coffee scrub.
Oh, you can use coffee for the skin.
Yeah, for the skin, like because they're scrubbing you. So and remember, coffee has that solid, or after crushing it, there was that solid part that comes along with it. So they mix it very well, and then they use it for scrub. You want to go out there and you're smelling coffee. You're like, I've used coffee to scrub my face or to scrub my body. So there are a lot of things that you can use coffee to do.
Okay, so
besides taking it as a beverage.
So that now brings us into the financial part of coffee. You know, now as a layman, you've told me all these things, and now I'm considering. I'm saying, you know what, this is what coffee can actually do for me. Okay, so I'm looking at a financial perspective. Now, what kind of advice would you give me, okay, a layman who wants to get into the coffee business, be it from the farming, be it being a grader, being a barista? What kind of advice would you give me?
Well, you talked about the advice already. As we were starting the show, you said like giving birth to a child, but no one wants to talk about how the child is conceived.
Conceived, yes.
So to interpret this is, please, if you want to get into the coffee business, don't just wait for the coffee in a cup. No, go deep down to the farms, go deep down to the farmers, talk to them, get engaged, get to know your product as a coffee product. That's how you understand how best can you give out coffee products to the public or to the consumers. Because the moment you only want to have a coffee in a cup, or for example you have a coffee shop, or you have a coffee business that's selling coffee or coffee equipment, you won't get to know the pain that the farmer goes through to make this coffee.
True,
so if it's asking for something like a basket or a pulping machine, you'll be like, you want to steal me, you know, like such things. But if you know the pain they go through, the hurdles they go through to get this cup of coffee here, then you understand the coffee chain, and it will be very much easier for you to invest in that business. So that's the advice I could give you.
So
get involved in the business.
A word out there for people who only wait for the coffee in the cup. When they tell you a cup of coffee is at this price, you should understand where the coffee actually came from. Okay, that is how you're going to appreciate the whole process. Don't just say, this coffee is too expensive, I can't do this. You should actually try and understand where the coffee comes from. So now that we have all these things in play, okay, I believe that with every industry, okay, there are certain hurdles, there are certain hardships that you go through. We talked about the first one, that was the pesticides, that really pulls down the quality of the coffee at the end of the day. So what are those other hurdles or those other obstacles that, you know, the people in the coffee chain will actually face?
Well, this whole conversation is all a bit about farmers, because you can say without a farmer we're not getting this cup of coffee. And without us, the consumers, the farmer won't do the coffee. Like
both sides
they need each other. But then the hurdles that farmers go through, one is ignorance. They do things that they're ignorant about. Like, for example, if they're spraying that coffee plant, do they know why they're spraying it? Do they know the effect? But if they are educated or if they are sensitized about the effects, then they won't do.
They won't do that.
So it goes back to the advice that I would give the coffee person who wants to invest in the business. Try to invest into your farmers, or try to invest into your employees who are in the farms. Teach them, educate them. How best can they grow that coffee. Yes, I know they're the ones like taking place or doing everything in the farms, but they need this information.
They do need,
because they're ignorant. I mean, they're in the farms, they're in the villages. For you have information all over. You have smartphone,
I mean,
tablets,
readily available.
You read. Most of our farmers, for the lack of a better word, they're illiterate.
That's very true.
That's very true, because they're only growing this coffee to get money to pay school fees for their children.
For their survival.
For their survival, basically. They don't mind about like the good quality of coffee. But if you want this good quality of coffee, invest in it. You get. So that's one challenge. They're ignorant. The second challenge is people who don't pay the value of farmers. For example, you devalue a farmer by buying a kilo of coffee at 500. What are you up to? I mean, so the farmer has invested into the coffee project, from the bed seed to the main garden. He has looked after it for over a year and a half, and you just bring a kilo of coffee.
So how much would a kilo go for?
Well, there's a standard of coffee. I mean, UCDA put a standard of coffee pricing. It's around 1,500 a kilo. But you find a good coffee a good coffee business person is at least adding in value to a farmer. Maybe he's buying a kilo at 2,500 or 2,000. So that's already added value.
So the minimum you can pay is 1,500.
1,500. Of recent, I'm not sure. I was reading about it. They were saying it's now around 2,000 a kilo, but I haven't confirmed that. So we shall have to confirm that before we confirm. we bring it to the show. But I mean, if you value the works of a farmer, the farmer will be happy. Will put in a lot of energy, efforts to at least give you that good quality coffee from the farm. The third one is equipments. Like most farmers grow coffee, but they don't have equipment. You know, so if you have a pulping machine, you have raised beds, like after harvesting coffee. You have scissors for like pruning coffee. I mean, you're going to have a good quality of coffee. But if you businessman and you want to invest into this, please go down to the farms and give farmers these equipments, because that's how we're going to get good coffee on market in Uganda and worldwide. So
with those, you know, the obstacles that you guys are facing, is there any organization, be it an NGO or a government body, that takes care of, you know, the coffee growers, and how have they helped, or is it just big gamble? People just be talking of how they're going to help you.
Well, not to be stingy about information, UCDA, Uganda Coffee Development Authority, is all responsible for this. Like, you have to put into place policies that are going to help farmers, that are going to help coffee business people, that are going to help baristas, that are going to help cuppers, roasters, various people in the coffee business. But UCDA, I've tried so much to read about them and follow their works. I mean, they're not doing enough, like, to put in place these policies that help farmers. Because now you'll find, like you said about NGOs, some NGOs come in, but they find a lot of challenges getting to this coffee business because of a lot of difficult policies that are put up by UCDA.
Yeah, so you have
for example, just imagine,
bureaucracy.
yeah, just imagine you wanted to venture into a coffee business.
Yes.
That would be hard for you because of the policies that are there.
Yeah.
Here you have to pay this for the license, you have to pay this for here starting a coffee farm. There are a lot of things that are involved to get into the coffee business.
Yeah.
So what they do, it's different private organizations like NGOs that start up like coffee farming groups to help these farmers. For example, let me use, it's not a mind, I work with Enduro Coffee and it's not blowing my own trumpet, but Enduro Coffee has a farmers association. It's called Enduro Coffee Growers. So it has a coffee shop, the coffee shop business, but it's also like has that Enduro Growers kind of association. So the Enduro Growers is totally different from the Enduro Coffee shop because Enduro Growers helps to nurture these farmers, you know, give them information, give them products that they're going to use, and this is how you're going to help farmers. You're giving them information how to better their crops, how to better their coffee farms. So I wish everybody could do this, then we could have the best coffee in the market.
That's very true.
And we would have less challenges with farmers.
Okay, our time is fast spent. We are almost coming to the end of the coffee break. But before we go, we have actually gone through the process of it starts from the farmer and ends up in a cup. We call that from tree to cup. Okay, now Uganda is predominantly a tea drinking nation. Okay, people drink tea. Okay, and it's a very hard thing to convert people from
tea to coffee.
Leave your tea and take coffee. There are a lot of myths that people have about coffee. Some I once heard that coffee helps you reduce weight. Then someone else said when you drink coffee, forget about sleep that day. It's gone. So what are some of the myths around coffee, and are they true? Okay, for me who wants to get into coffee, I need to know what am I getting myself into.
Well, good enough you're also using the word mints, so which means they're not true. But I mean, like as a beverage with a catalyst, let me use the word chemical. As you're starting to take it, of course you will experience different challenges.
That's true.
So, but when you get used to it, then everything becomes normal. So there are all the things you hear about coffee, my dear friend, they're not true. They are not true. Try to make more research about them. Watch the coffee break every weekend. You get to realize that the things are not true.
So if I take my coffee at night, surely I will sleep.
At night, like at what time?
Let's say my bedtime is 11 p.m. So I take my coffee around 8, 9.
Let me ask you something. Would you eat supper at 11 a.m. when you're going to sleep?
No.
No. So that's the same thing. Why would you take coffee and yet you're going to sleep? I mean, coffee is meant for like early mornings, during the day, you're busy with work, you want something. Like instead of taking those energy drinks, no, take coffee.
But is coffee itself an energy drink? Because doesn't it cause some kind of dependence? There are some people when they wake up, a brother of mine, when he wakes up in the morning, he looks like a zombie. But as soon as he hits that coffee, boom.
It's addiction.
It's addiction.
It's addiction because it's like when you wake up in the morning, you always take a glass of water. That's like your routine. You're addicted to that. Same thing applies to coffee. So when they get used, like their body system is meant for coffee. So when they wake up, they feel like they need coffee before they start their day. Same applies with a coffee drink. I mean, to the water drinker. When they wake up, they feel like I need my glass of water before I start my day.
That's very. I think even for me, a person who drinks tea. Sometimes when I don't drink tea, I feel like I really need to get tea. But we've come almost to the end of our coffee break today with Amon. Amon, just look into the camera and tell people the last words. For this weekend. I know we'll still have you other weekends coming, but is there anything you want to tell maybe a new coffee drinker, the farmers, whoever is in that chain? Any advice, any last words you would want to give out to them?
Well, my advice is going to two people, the farmer and the business person, like the one who buys coffee from the farms. So listen up, farmers, wherever you're watching us from, you're in the village, you're in your farm, you grow, you're pruning your coffee, you're harvesting your coffee, please make sure that when these business people come to your farm, ask a lot of information from them. Make research. They shouldn't duplicate you. They shouldn't undervalue your efforts put into those farms. You get? So, if you're a farmer, make sure that you don't get undervalued. And for a business person, don't use your literacy or your information that you have about coffee to dupe these farmers. Please, don't do that. Let's all value each other, and then we shall have good coffee around the world, especially in Uganda, more so.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it there from, I like to say, Mr. Professional, Mr. Amon Mukisa, because at this point you're the professional here and I was the one learning. But thank you very much for the advice. I'd just like to add on to that, especially not only to the people who do, not only to the farmers and people who, you know, really grow food for us. A lot of times these people are actually taken for granted. Okay, for example, when I go to the market and I'm buying tomatoes, you know, I'll go there and argue for a price that I think I should buy it at, yet the person who brought it actually went through certain trials. Okay, so we should be able to appreciate, you know, their work from the beginning until it gets to the end result. I mean, at the end of the day, sometimes I can go to, let's say, a restaurant or to a supermarket and waste a lot of money on buying things that are not even Ugandan. Okay, but why can't I support my people down here? Okay, yes. So to the people out there who take coffee, who are planning to get into coffee business, the new drinkers of coffee, support the hustle. Okay, be Uganda, buy Uganda.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all we had today on the coffee break. Till next week, this is House of Talent Television. My name is Ateng Emmanuel. Have a good weekend and happy Labor Day, 1st of May 2021.
welcome to the Family Talk Show this week. My name is Eddie Okela, and it's yet another week, another challenge for your family right there, or another success for your family right there. And of course, this week on the show, we'll be discussing the role of fatherhood in our life. We are on that series of fatherhood, and of course, the topic is up there on the screen. And we want to start from a very light mode of things today by bringing you a man who is a man of coat of many colors. It's a nomination from the one and only Pastor Joshua Martin Mugabe, who is a resident panelist on the Family Talk Show. Of course, holding down the fort on the 1 and 2 for Hassan Sekajolo, who is still recovering from his shoulder, dislocation as a result of that border accident. But Hassan is working behind the scene and putting things together with Pastor Joshua Mugabe. Now, today, Pastor Joshua Mugabe will not be joining us for the show. He is being a father somewhere, and the topic we're going to discuss today is a very interesting topic. If your father was not in your life, and you discovered that the father is not your father, or when your father is not your real father, how do you deal with the emotions later? Many of us have discovered that, man, that was not my dad, or he's not my dad, but you are there in that space. How do you cope up? How many questions pop in your head? Ladies and gentlemen, joining me on the nomination and effectively representing the one and only Pastor Joshua Martin Mugabe is the one called Slivin Gumisiriza. I hope I have gotten the name correct.
Very well, very well. Thank you so much.
Welcome to the show. And
Thank
the signature, this is signature is for Pastor Joshua Mugabe. You have to do it right because he must be watching this.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's
Great.
a privilege to be here.
Thank you very much to have you here, and we want to say thank you very much. The topic, Sylvain, is very interesting. But first we want to know, who is Sylvain in a nutshell?
Well, Sylvain is a very simple person. Sylvain Gumisiriza are my names. I come all the way from Rukunjiri. I do not know how Joshua thought about this, but when he talked about the topic, I really resonated. I am in the IT field, but I'm also passionate about politics. And you can't talk about politics, you don't talk about people, and you can't talk about people, you don't talk about families. Yeah. I do private consultancies in project management, specifically leaning onto IT. Yeah. My passion is in politics. So if we can stabilize the politics, if we can do the stabilization of politics right from stabilizing families, the better for me. That's a simple Sylvain. Really.
Wow. Well, and I think I like that, Sylvain, when you say if you can stabilize politics, then you will, if you stabilize family, you will stabilize politics. If family is not sorted out, then we will have a problem. Of course, we have had a situation of, big top names in politics having situation with their family affairs coming. I'm your son, you're not my son, you're not my daughter, you're not this. And it has caused a lot of problems in our society today. And politicians tend to have that quite a bit. Let's dig deep into this topic quite fast. Sylvain, if you were to find yourself in a situation where your father, that you know is your father and you've grown up knowing, later on turned out not to be your father at a certain age, and now you are almost becoming a father yourself, how do you deal with that emotion that was invested somewhere else and now is being brought forward in a different context altogether? If you were to find yourself, if one, there, what happened?
Great. Thank you so much, Eddie, for the question. I think my quickest answer is that you still go on and live. Yeah. And I unpack that one. I happen to be one of those that struggled to understand whether my dad was my dad growing up, to the extent that at some point I chose to leave home. And I told him, Dad, we are disagreeing, but I'm not going to stay with you. So let me leave so that we can have peace. And I remember him vividly coming out before my family members and telling me, you leave today, you're no longer my son. That was very difficult. But along the way, God in his own way has got a way of putting it clear. You don't see things connecting, but there's a way he's connecting things. And I grew up to the point where I now needed to go back and interact with the family. And I realized, well, I'm going back, but this gentleman said I'm no longer his son. So I had a choice to make. Do I accept that I'm not his son and stay away from him and the family altogether? Or I choose to know that there is a purpose for which I was created, and biologically I needed to come out through my dad and my mom in that setting, and whatever he says, yes, he has the right to say it, or whether he's conscious or not, but I have to find a means that it does not affect my other life. Because he's saying I'm no longer his son did not stop me from breathing. I didn't fail to walk. I met very many good Samaritans. They supported me, and I studied. Should I trash all that and say, for that reason, I'm not staying with my dad? You know, that would be putting myself within one box and not appreciating the fact that I've been able to live.
Yeah.
So I think this is where we need to get to, but it's a process, and I can guarantee you, one can easily speak about it if he has not been there. One can easily speak about it if he's not there. But it must be very difficult for somebody that is there and is listening. What's this person saying? Does he really know what it feels?
Yeah.
But what I want to bring across is this. Life goes on.
Yeah.
They say they have ignored you. The hours in the day do not change. They remain 24 hours.
Yeah.
You come to discover that all that you have invested in, or the person you've lived with for a long period, is not your dad. When you have got support, someone needs to listen in. First of all, to listen to your story, appreciate you for who you are, not being judgmental, and you compose yourself. Because irrespective of the feelings you had, you're most likely going to, because we are human beings and we have very many common things, especially about feelings. You're going to meet somebody's daughter, you're going to propose to her, she's going to accept, you're going to marry her, you're going to give birth to a child. How do you want this child to grow up? So it is difficult, even as I say it, because I'm partly that kind of victim. But it is also important to know that there is always a purpose behind our being brought on earth. Because remember, biologically we all know that over 3 million sperms go.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But how come of those 3 million sperms, what resulted was Eddie and Sylvain and somebody else, not something else?
Yeah.
So we need to get back and really appreciate life. However, having known that this person is really not my dad,
Yes.
for me, I would suggest seek God first. Because we are going to be very many people telling you a lot of things.
Yeah.
Many things. And some of us are going to be advising you, do not even qualify to advise you. So I feel you need to look for one center point, Paul, who is God you need to lean on to. Then the others can come in as support mechanisms and find out what is within you that you want to see in future. Because if you choose to stay in that box, there are many things that are going to miss.
Yeah.
There could be that, if you're a lady, there could be that good man that was, going to be happy with you as a wife. If you're a man, it could be that lady that was going to be happy with you as a husband. And you can turn things around. Somehow live in a way that you make people admire.
Yeah.
the kind of family that you have, because it has to be in a way that it gets back to the reconciliation. And truth be said, in Africa, we take long to reconcile.
Actually, Sylvain,
Yeah.
Having done justice to that first question, there is this moment where you find yourself in a situation like that, and many of us out there find ourselves in that situation, and we're asking ourselves, did my mother make a mistake, or was it my father who made a mistake? How did this become my situation, and how am I in this setting? So you want to start to look for who made a mistake. Is it your father? Is it your mother? What happened in the process? And in that process, normally people get so agitated. Some people get so angry with themselves. Others become, their attitude towards the person who they got to know was not their dad, even though that person had been good to them, begin to change. Now, dealing with that can be completely a very complex situation. And we would like to know, as we delve deep into this, by everyone out there, if you found yourself in that situation, what are you doing? How do you deal with it? What are your thoughts? You've heard from Sylvain, you've heard from me, and we want to know, what are your thoughts? How are you dealing with that situation? What is going on? We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Sylvain will answer the second question, which is, should you reject the person? Should you fight with your dad? If the name was given to you as Okila or Sylvain Gumisiriza, do you change the name? What do you do? Stay right there. I'll be right back after the break.
Then we can chart a way forward with you. We can help you, we can coach you, we can walk with you this journey of financial freedom. Thank you. My name is Dr. Jinpo Olowo. Thank you for watching House of Talent Television. I love to inspire people. I love to talk about my experiences and how God has been able to use me in the different exposures. And through the leadership, through change management and transformation, I've been able to do a couple of things in my life. Now, are you a kind of person who is tired of your status quo? Do you want your situation to change? Are you tired of what is going on in your life? You know, change is a fact of life. We've all been through experiences in the last couple of months that have taken us to a place where we need to do something about our lives. We need to change whatever is going on. So if you have not piled up investment for yourself, you need to do that. If you've not done businesses to hold your family in future, you need to do that. Are you thinking of full-time employment? You need to be thinking about your life after employment or your business in the next couple of years. So if you want us to chat, if you want us to talk about this, please get in touch with us at SIL Uganda on number 0772443085 or check our website www.siluganda.com, or on all the social media handles. You can hook me up or Facebook, that is Jinpo Olowo, on Instagram, Jinpo Olowo, and on Twitter and LinkedIn. Then we can chat a way forward with you. We can help you, we can coach you, we can walk with you this journey of financial freedom. Thank you.
Welcome back to the show. My name is Eddie Okila with my guest in the studio here, Sylvain. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Before we went for a break, we were talking about what happened when you wake up today and you were told that the man you knew very much as your dad is no longer your dad, or is not your biological dad. He's still your dad, because in Africa a child is raised by village, and so in that context is your father. But should you hate your father? Should you hate the person who raised you if at all it turned out that he's not your biological father? Should you? How do you deal with that situation? Do you change your name?
No one deserves to be hated. In any case, the beauty that we do not make applications to be born. We find ourselves born, and we don't play a role. We just find us outside there as product of a certain role that was played by two people.
Yeah.
I think what it would require of one is to think through. First of all, at what age do you find that that person is not your dad? Is a big question. Two, how did it come about? Did it come out of a quarrel, a disagreement, or it was a candid conversation that somebody felt you needed not to be left, in the unknowns for a long period. So different scenarios will need to bring about different approaches. But the center point of that is that there is no one that deserves to be hated. For example, you get to move to this man's house with your mother at the time you're young. For some reasons, she left where she was, or she gave birth to you, but she's not with your father to say, why should that man face the problem? Because in any case, I think that person is merciful to feel that he can live with a mother, I mean a lady who has a child that is not his own biologically. I think that person deserves a plus, deserves to be appreciated, deserves to be thanked. That's number one. Number two, when you realize that you have not lived with your biological father for the longest period, you need to find the position of your conscience. Because you might end up getting annoyed with somebody that is either doesn't care or had no option at that time in his capacity but to live the life that he lived with you. And if you find your conscience, then you'll be in position to know, how did it happen? And go with an element of grace. Because you cannot tell. That very person himself is the only one who can explain what he was through. And no matter how much he really explains, fathers play big roles and something you can't really pay back for in their children's lives growing up. No matter how much explanation this person is going to give, it is still not enough to your satisfaction to say, I really forgive you in the human setting. But why I'm insisting that you stick to that and find a space in your heart to forgive this person is because shortly after that, unless you choose not to marry, you will be somebody's dad. And we do not know how it is going to go with you. Number two.
So you're saying you could also fall
You could also fall a victim.
Yeah.
You could also fall a victim. Number two, if you choose to go the positive side, looking back into the kind of input this non-biological father has put in your life, there are many things to learn. Me and you, we very well know that the person you are and the person I am is not entirely or completely grounded on our DNA, where we were raised from. There are many things that have shaped the persons that we are. Some of us have been majorly shaped by the environment we've lived in. Not really because we were raised and we lived with our dads. Yeah. And once you get to that particular position, then you will be in a position to determine what kind of family do I want to have going forward. So I feel if you choose to hate your dad, if you choose to hate the person that you've lived with for a long period and you later realize that he's not your dad, for me that's wasted energy. Our energies need to be channeled in the positive sense. Okay. Number two, the third one, the third component is that thank God some people have lived with their parents and they don't like their parents when they are with them. What could have happened? They are with them. They know their biological parents, but they are not happy at that very point. How about you has got even an opportunity to live with somebody strange? Talk about changing names. Why should you change names necessarily?
Because I've had a friend of mine who was, the moment he learned that this was not his father, he decided, no, it's not my father, I'm going to change my name. My name I have to give it to my dad, even though I don't trust my dad. I don't know what happened. I might be accusing the man. My mother told me very late. And then later on, when he pushed so much and changed his name, the mother told him, actually, let me tell you, it was your father who left me. So because I was dealing with too much pain, I chose not to pass the pain to you. Now he wanted to change his name back to his stepdad and it was too late. So he ended up in a very messy situation.
So you see, that's very struggle.
Yes.
A name is a name. It does not tell your biological settings or the DNA.
Yeah.
However, if you feel that will put you in a stable state, well, I don't dictate. You can really change it. But for me, I feel it's not even necessary to identify myself with this family lineage whose actions are not that interesting to identify with. I want to identify with something really good.
Yes.
So to say that I feel I need to change my name because the other one is my dad,
Yeah.
sometimes we are actually traced by our lineage.
Yeah.
If you're the Kagoros and they trace the Kagoros and then they find the Kagoros were the thieves, they were the thugs, they were a nuisance in the community, why would I want to identify myself with the nuisance in the community?
Yeah.
I think we need to keep refocusing and finding out what's the driving motivation
Yeah.
to choosing to change the name. If you don't have something really tangible and something you can live on and something that you can give out to your upcoming children, I mean to say, unless you're not biologically active, whatever you're going through, sometime, someday, you're going to be in position of that person that you think is the reason for you being in it. The
Yes.
question is,
Yes.
how are you going to handle it?
Yes.
And let me put this one also. Sometimes as either men or women, we want, especially when we have lived a poor, not so good life,
Yes.
we work towards, I don't want to be like my father.
I actually
want
want
to
to
be-
hold it right there. Sylvie. We have to go for a break, and when we come back from this coffee break, Sylvine will pick it up from there and say, I don't want to be there, but you've heard from him, you've heard from the man, the kind of situation we go through in life. Stay right there. The family talk is talking about what do you do when you find out that the man that you have been living with is not your father. And now you deal with the emotion later. Do you reject him? Do you accept him? Do you fight? On the series of lessons learned from our father. We'll be right back after this break.
My name is Dr. Jinpo Olowo. Thank you for watching House of Talent Television. I love to inspire people. I love to talk about my experiences and how God has been able to use me in the different exposures. And through the leadership, through change management and transformation, I've been able to do a couple of things in my life. Now, are you a kind of person who is tired of your status quo? Do you want your situation to change? Are you tired of what is going on in your life? You know, change is a fact of life. We've all been through experiences in the last couple of months that have taken us to a place where we need to do something about our lives. We need to change whatever is going on. So if you have not piled up investment for yourself, you need to do that. If you've not done businesses to hold your family in future, you need to do that. Are you thinking of full-time employment? You need to be thinking about your life after employment or your business in the next couple of years. So if you want us to chat, if you want us to talk about this, please get in touch with us at SIL Uganda on number 0772443085 or check our website www.siluganda.com, or on all the social media handles. You can hook me up or Facebook, that is Jinpo Olowo, on Instagram, Jinpo Olowo, and on Twitter and LinkedIn. Then we can chat a way forward with you. We can help you, we can coach you, we can walk with you this journey of financial freedom. Thank you.
Welcome back from that break. This is the Family Talk Show. My name is Eddie Okila, and in the studio is Sylvain Gumisiriza, who is a guest on the show today and is a resident panelist representing Pastor Joshua Martin Mugabe. The Family Talk Show is a very important show to us as part of an effort to address many things and the issues affecting our families. The Family Talk Show seeks to address this every single week by bringing some of the complex situation to the forefront, but also with a discussion that is meant to inspire you and to give you direction on how to deal with those complexities that come with situations surrounding our families. For example, if your father was not involved in your life, and you discover later on that the man you've been living with as your dad is not your dad, what do you do? How do you deal with that emotion? Many of us are stuck, and yet we're becoming fathers. What are the lessons learned from our father? Have you learned a lesson from your father? If that happened, would you throw away that man, or would you continue to have him as your father? Many of us have gone on to change our names, and many of us have gone in to say, I've lost my identity, I don't know who I am. Who made the mistake? People keep asking such questions. I think my father made a mistake, or my mother. Gumikiriza, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
I want to take you back from where you had stopped.
Yeah.
Point number 3. Do you remember point number 3?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Yes. Pick it up.
The idea of thinking that I don't want to be like my father, I don't want to be like my mother. For me, that is wasted energy. A reason being, you certainly cannot be like your mother, you can never be like your father, you can only be you. So what then does it require of you? And like I said before, just put yourself in the right context and have your conscience clear and say, okay, from here, how do I want to live my life? Because as you're growing, there are things you learned, some accidentally, some incidentally. So there are many things, for as long as your eyes can see and your ears can hear, you've got to learn a number of things. Some you've got to choose to drop, some you've got to choose to pick up. This means that when you get to the point of marrying, you get a husband, you get a wife, and you give birth to a child, whether you want it or not, he or she is going to learn. And he's going to learn from you. Now, if he's learning from you and you're not intentional about what you're teaching or what you're demonstrating, there's also a possibility that you can even be worse than your father in an attempt to not be like your father. And the truth is that you have been different from your father, but rather worse. So that negative energy, we don't need to invest it in our lives. Thank God you're breathing, you're not sick, you have a job, or you've struggled and gotten somewhere. The next thing is, what else can I do? But also, now the fourth point is that get to a point of reconciling with your God and with yourself.
Wow. Well, you've had that coming from Sylvain right there. When your father was not involved in your life, what do you do? How do you deal with that emotion? But I want to just bring it to you guys who are watching the show all across the world. Wherever you are, we're live on Facebook, on Twitter, and on our YouTube channel. Please go in there and subscribe and be part of this discussion growing bigger and better. Every family in the world has got a problem. Every family in the world. They struggle with something. We have seen the British family, the strongest, most powerful family in Britain, struggling. The Queen's building, the Queen's household also has issues with to do with the family. How about you here in Africa, in Uganda? You have the same problem. So it means the rich also cry. So the issue we're talking about here exists. And I think the issue that we see going on in England and in any other part of the world is because of identity. So fathers tend to give a lot of identity meaning to their sons. And you're becoming a father, and your father was not involved in your life. Some people have killed their father. Others have gone ahead to break down. Now, I want to take you straight to that part, Sylvain. When you talk about your dad telling you, when you said, Dad, we're not agreeing, he says, okay, I'm leaving your house. You are not rejecting your father.
No, I wasn't.
You are just simply telling your father that, you know what, in order for me to be more focused, I need to leave. And your father tells you, if you go, you cease being my son. How did you reconcile the situation?
It was difficult. I'm not Superman. I'm a human being. First of all, I left and I went to live with somebody not at all related to me, with whom I worked as a houseboy, and for he thought, well, I'd gone to be a houseboy, but the issue had been that me and my dad were disagreeing that he didn't want to take me to school. So at 6 months down the road, I'm working for him, and he says, but you boy, you're not asking for your money. And I told him my problem leaving home wasn't money. My problem was that I couldn't go to school. And that statement, I think there's a way it touched him. So he asked me a question, could you please work? You think you can work as well as be at school? I said, well, let's try it. Because you have your interest, I have my interest. Thank God it worked. None of his farms went with like unattended to, yet I also studied. And that for me was the catch. Fast forward, I landed in the hands of my uncle, maternal uncle, whom I had last seen about 8 years past. And he sees me, he says, hey, you boy, you're here. I'm thinking, whew. So he picks me away from Rukunja and brings me to Kampala. And my life immediately changes. But I had this very interesting lady. She used to be a very good friend to my mom. And I found her in Kampala. She told me, you know what, Sylvain, the best way to live your life going forward is to begin to think on how to forgive your dad. You don't have to ask him questions, but you have to find a space in your heart to forgive him. And I can tell you, it took me the longest period. To the extent that even when I could be demonstrating, forgiveness, this moment you're going home, you want to see your dad, you want to greet him, he refuses to greet me. I put my hand and he says, no, I don't want to greet you. Now, the beauty part of it was that he would say, I don't want to greet you, my son.
But he wanted something from you.
He just was still demonstrating he's angry with me.
Yes. Okay. Oh, okay.
So he calls me, my son, I don't want to greet you, but then he calls me my son, and I'm at peace with that. And I'm at peace with that. So along the way, and not so long ago, I remember it's about 2018, 31st December 2018, in an overnight at midnight, the first call I received was my dad's call. Hello, how are you? I wanted to wish you a very happy new year 2019. And I realized at that moment that he had chosen to reconcile. The beauty is that for me, I gave my life to Christ in 2009. I struggled with it for about 5 years, and then I later released. So by the time he was saying, I wish you a very happy new year, with me it was already okay, because the moment I released, I continued on with my life. Yeah. I continued figuring out what do I get, how do I do that, how do I connect with that person, and all that for me was very helpful. The process of reconciliation can be difficult. Sometimes it is not even realized. But there is need for one to get to that point and say, I need to move on and I don't want these hindrances. When there is an opportunity to reconcile, please do it, because it unfolds very many things tied up. But when you choose not to reconcile, like I was saying before, it is negative energy invested into something, and sometimes the parents are also naive. They had never been parents before. They were learning to be parents, and now they don't know how to reconcile, and you're making the life more complicated. You will live a very much miserable life. You can go on and prosper in the context of a human setting. You have all these things you wanted, you've admired. You have the car, you have a wife, you have everything. And you call that one prosperity. But inside you, you're empty. So that is something that you need to think about. Because what fulfills somebody is this moment where he turns around and he feels he's accepted. He turns around and he feels he has friends. And he wants to connect home. He can call and they say, hey, we are here. Do you want to come over? You know, and when you get there, they say, you're welcome. Irrespective of the things that really happened in the past. That was your story. If you want, by the bitty part of it, you can actually write a book and it will get very many, it will get market. People will want to know, how do I go through such? Because some of the people that have written these books are really very theoretical. But if you want, you can even write the book because you have lived the practical life. I mean to say, always find the means of not being deviated from your focus. And it is very difficult to be innovative when you're annoyed, when you're unhappy. You can only be innovative when you feel you have life. So focusing on that also kills your creativity, kills your innovation, and you'll still end up not being fulfilled. The Bible somewhere in Solomon, there's a way he puts it. It says, vanity. All that we are working for, all that we are really looking for, at the end of the day, there's going to be an end point and you will pass on. You will die. The question is, what do you want to leave back behind? Is it the right thing? Is it the good thing? Or is it the bad thing? We can still know you if you choose to live that life. At the burial, we can eulogize and we say he has not lived a good life. If that's what you want, if that's what you want people to say. But you can as well say, we can as well say, he struggled, but he was a good man. He lived a difficult life in his childhood, or she lived a difficult life in her childhood, but she was a good lady. She was generous, she was positive, she was supportive, she looked after her children. And so is the man. So choose the legacy you want to leave.
Well, I think the Family Talk Show, when your father is not your real father, how do you deal with the emotions later? Is what we're talking about. The series is on the Family Talk Show, where we focus our attention on fatherhood. Fatherhood is such a big thing in our society, in our lives, in our families. A father without direction to the family, that family will perish. A father who does not give a child emotional attention is a no father to that child. It doesn't matter how much you are giving or what you are giving to that child. And that's what we're talking about here. This is a Family Talk Show. My name is Eddie Okela, and Sylvain Gumisiriza, that's the right word, is representing effectively Pastor Joshua Martin Mugabe on the show today, and I think he has done a good job in doing so. Now, I want to remind you of something about Family Talk Show, just before I get back to Sylvain. That Family Talk Show is much inclined towards values. Do you have value as a father that you give to your children? Innovation. How innovative are you to your children as a father? All right? And dialogue. Do you have a dialogue with your father? You've heard the story of, Sylvain and his father. When he said, Dad, we're not agreeing. The father is saying, stay home, look after my animals, few animals there. And the story is known in the Bible. David also suffered the same consequences until God came to his rescue. Sylvain's story is just different. His uncle came to his rescue. But he's not living like that. David didn't live like that. So do you have a dialogue with your children? That's what we're talking about in the Family Talk Show. And are you justness, being just to your children, you as a son being just to your dad? I mean, if your mother tells you this is not your father, are you going to blame your father, your mother, Are you going to look for who sinned? Like the other one who asked Jesus who sinned, that this man is lame, you know? And the other thing is hard work. As a father, you must show your children that you are hardworking. You must tell your son, you must show them, work with them, walk the talk with them. Some of us fathers don't do so because we didn't have a father figure in our lives. Pastor Joshua Mugabe's story is no different. My story is no different. So, is your story. And the last thing I want to talk about is character. Character is very important in trying to guide a family going forward. You know, orderliness is very important. What kind of character are you as a father to your children, to your sons, to your daughters? You know, that's a lesson picked from our fathers. We want to pick from there. And orderliness. Are you an orderly person? Are you orderly in everything you do? Like Sylvain, the lesson I learned from him today on the show and to many of you, he said I stayed focused. I knew that we were disagreeing with my father, not because of anything, because I wanted to study. He was sharing a different idea altogether. But see how he turned around the story. You too can also turn around that story. And by the way, this is not a motivational speaking. It's a family talk show where we're talking serious stuff. Devotion. How devoted are you? Do you sit down and, you know, give your children understanding of what you're talking about? These are the things we're talking about in the family talk show. And of course, we want to look at the personal development as a person. Do you allow your sons to develop further? If your son is trying to do something, will you allow him to develop? Would you be like Sylvain's uncle who says, oh, 8 months, where have you been? I have seen you. And then off from Ntungamo in the western part of Uganda to the central part of Uganda, and the story is different. He's now discussing politics. He's now on the family talk show. He could have remained there. Sylvain, we have to bring this show to a close. Yes. And I want you to look into one thing, revisiting our Christ-like family, you know, Christian families, establishing an inspirational and very educational, stage in our life, a spiritual field family. It doesn't really matter. Family is not about, what we'll call religious correctness or whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter whether you're Muslim or a Christian, whatever it is, or a Jew or a Buddhist. A family is very important. You don't have a family, none of those things we're talking about will work. First of all, the foundation is from there. But I want you also to close it up by saying, fathers who are political figures, how should they deal with their sons? Because they spend a lot of their time arguing in parliament or wherever they are, that they have very little time with their sons. And most times, we've seen them in movies. We've also seen them in real time when the son and the father are completely totally different. I think we have a case in scenario somewhere in Africa here where the first sons are usually either people who like, public life of drinking and enjoying, and people keep playing, but he's not fit like his father. And we forget that the father, in so doing, did not, when he is working, doing something around politics and fixing the nation, he forgot about his son. And now he wants his son to become the president. The case in point in Mali right now, where we're seeing the son has come, kicked everyone. So I want you to close the show with those.
Well, I think the most important thing in all settings, family is very foundational. Yeah. And to anybody watching and listening, be mindful that you can want to fight and to save the country, but if you lose your family at the end of it, you will still have lost. So it is important that you focus on saving your family. And there's this calling that you have to save the nation as well. In other words, have time for politics and have time for your family. And if you're to compromise, please compromise the time for politics, not the time for your family. In other words, right from the start, you have to be intentional to make your family understand and get to know why you're going where you're going. What is in it for them, that you're trying to stabilize a nation, you're trying to stabilize the situation. And when you come over home, give them their due attention. Do not pick those ministerial calls and all other political calls, yet you are actually in the family, because you're with your wife, you're with your children. They want you there. They want to connect with you as a parent. Other than that, you can end up being, in our language, if I can put it in English, that setting to milk two cows at the same time, you'll end up not having any milk from any of the two. So that is two angles. They are all demanding your time, and you choose to split yourself, you will actually end up being split, and you won't have a fulfilled life. It is very, very important for us to have stable nations, for us to have stable communities. We need to have stable families. If we are intentional in stabilizing our families, it will be automatic and subsequential that the community will be stable. If our communities are stable, the politics or the governances of our nations will also be stable. And in a stable environment, there's a lot of creativity, there's a lot of innovation, there's a lot of development. We cannot achieve development if we don't stabilize ourselves.
Wow. Well, when your father is not your real father is a topic of discussion, how do you deal with the emotional part of it later? I think Sylvine has done a very great job in trying to help us understand that. Thank you very much to Pastor Joshua Martin Mugabe and Asan Sekajolo for setting up this topic rolling, and for course setting the platform rolling. Again, we want to be able to inspire the families to be great. Next time we promise to bring you ladies to hear their perspective when they finally tell us, by the way, that is not your dad. And it is said only women know the fathers of their children. So unless your mother tells you who your real father is, the DNA might not be able to prove. And of course, there's a lot of stereotype going on about you might be fathering a son who is not yours, and his character turned out to be totally very different. But all of these stories we will discuss in the Family Talk Show. And it's important that as you plan to get married, make sure you tick the boxes. Make sure you are pulling your family together. Ladies and gentlemen all across the world, in the US, in Australia, wherever you are, in Germany, wherever you are in the, Sweden, we want to say thank you so much. But we want to end the show on a very interesting note here. Gumisiriza is on the show, and Sylvine is the son of the western part of Uganda, the land full of milk without honey, because honey is coming from somewhere else. So it's not fully the package of the Bible as it is, but that's another discussion altogether. His cousin, the son of Dr. Kizza Besigye, graduated. And there was a very interesting discussion that happened right there when he graduated. The mother said, our son graduated and they were very good. So we saw pictures where Dr. Kizza Besigye was not there. But the mother had to do something that says, join the family in a toss virtually. And somebody tweeted and said, why do you always refer to him as our son? And said, and I think it evoked such a very deep emotion from Winnie Byanyima. And I think I saw a tweet where he says, he didn't wed me, but he kept promise and he never explained. So I was like, wow, people can go as far as looking for connection. Mm-hmm. Now, and it's said when the boy has just graduated. Mm. Do you think it will ever affect that son?
Well, unless his name is Anselm, right?
Yes.
Unless Anselm is not human, then he won't be affected. He will be affected, I can guarantee you. Forget about all that they possess. Forget about the level at which they are. Forget about how he sleeps and everything that is happening in his life. It's going to affect him at some point. He might be not that courageous to have a candid conversation with his parents. Now, if he happens to be courageous now, then the better. But in their absence, at their old age, I can guarantee you that it will affect him. One thing we do not know is that a child at about 3 years of age, be careful what you're doing and what you're saying in his sight or her sight. So you might find Anselm, like any other child, has grown. He has gathered a lot of information. His hard disk is full of information. part of which he's struggling with and doesn't know whom to discuss with. Part of which he has probably tried to discuss and he finds people they do not connect with him because it is difficult to be in the world of Anselm, in the life he has been. So let's be careful when we are mentioning statements. Even when we are so much annoyed, we can never justify these statements by saying I was annoyed. No, it passed. And let me tell you that, which is something you already know, that the Bible puts it very clear. It is what is within you that comes out through the mouth. So what enters is not the biggest problem, but what comes out is so much big. And remember, it cannot be withdrawn. So if she has said it, she needs to find a means of sitting with Anselm and unpack it for him. So is the dad. He also needs to find means and time, have a conversation with Anselm.
In fact, the connection there, if I may interject, is on the issue of both is a political figure, mother was a political figure, and both of them are very strong. Now, of course, over the years, a lot of things have been said about the father, the mother, and the stuff like that. And it's not something we're saying. We're not saying that the father is not in his life. We're not saying that he's not in his father's life, or mother is not in life. But one thing I want to learn from there, and I thank them for, is the fact that they're always with him, even regardless of what they're saying. I saw Kizza Besigye on screen when he was talking to his son, when he was congratulating me. And I felt like that's the moment where the father would stand there. Because if he wasn't there and it was only the mother, he would be asking, so yeah, I don't care whether you are the top man or the big man in Africa, but you see, you were not there when I was graduating, right? You didn't, but he was there on the screen. And that's the moment we wanted to throw out there, just for anyone who is watching the show. We're not saying that there is that problem. And what Sylvain is basically wrapping up on the show is saying, whatever happened in that situation, if you may pick it up from there.
Yes. Whatever is happening, they need to bring it back to Anselm's context, because his world is different from their world.
Yeah.
Yet they are responsible for bringing out his world. So they have to explain to him. And he has got to grow to the point, I guess he has started making his decisions, some of which
the mother actually said, he's now enough to get out of my apartment.
Get out of my apartment. You see now, making his decisions. But remember that how he has been brought up is going to affect the decision he's going to make as well. True. So, and my prayer is that it affects him in making the right decisions. But the life Anselm has lived is a difficult life to understand, and only Anselm and God can understand that. But it can be used for the good. Should not be something that one say, you know, he lived alone with the mother for the most time, so he's mommy's boy, and so the father is not in the figure. No, in his life, the father figure is not in his life. No. Either way, I'm not the one who said that when you are given lemon, you can turn it into the lemonade. Yeah. He can use his life that he has lived into something so exciting, so interesting that people would want to say, okay, no more excuses. It is up to him as Anselm, but it's also up to the parents to be candid and be honest with him, show to him the kind of life he has lived, and then let him know that he can actually choose to live a life that's even a lot better and still appreciate. One other thing that we tend to make, especially a big mistake, when we have all these challenges and eventually we prosper, we think that those people did not matter. But they were part of our story. So we need to give them their due respect. Back to you.
Well, thank you very much, Sylvain. Thank you very much, everybody, for being a part of the Family Talk Show, Growing Bigger and Better. You've heard it from Sylvain right there. We would like to bring it to a close today. The Family Talk Show exists for you to express yourself. I think if your father was not in your life, deal with the emotion creatively and make sure that emotion does not affect negatively the son you're going to bring or the daughter you're going to bring, but rather it will be a point of strength for them. And the lesson is drawn from this topic today from the family of the most powerful man, one of the most powerful men in Uganda and in Africa, Dr. Kizza Besigye, who and his wife, Dr. Winnie Byanyima, have raised one son, total apart, but he has graduated. And we see him there being part of the graduation virtually, even though coronavirus. So with or without coronavirus, he still participated. We want to salute Dr. Kizza Besigye right there and Winnie Byanyima for showing the best example in context and in light of the topic of today. If your father was not in your life and you get to know later what happened, do you reject, accept, deal with emotion? Until next week, Pastor Joshua Mugabi, Eddie Okello, Hassan Sekajolo, and of course, Sylvain, our guest here, we want to say thank you very much. And it's a wrap from us here. Until next week, God bless you. Stay rooted in your family and be a good father to your children. So that's about it for what you carry to get in a place of working out and where to start from. Now, I'm gonna take you straight to the workout. And today my guest for the first time is going to be a man called Philip. Philip is the guy who works at Edge Fitness. Philip, come on, man. Yeah, how are you doing?
Good.
That's how we do it. Yes, so first of all, what's your good name?
Philip.
Philip Wood. You know there are many Philip in the world, eh?
Yeah, Philip Wandera.
Wandera is your name. Yes. So this guy is called Wandera, all right? We're gonna start a workout. So today I'm gonna coach a guy who works in the gym. And if you come to Edge Fitness, you're definitely gonna meet this guy and give me the review of how he treats you. I guess he must be a very humble guy, you know, with a lot of humility because he started from here. It's a great story to start with. So it's something that we really have to, pay attention to. And later on in the video, I'll be talking to many other guys and I'll be, telling you what people need to do to know when, how, and what to do. So today's video, we're focusing on one. If you arrive at the gym, what do you do next? So we're gonna start a workout, Phil. And the first thing we're gonna do is to warm up. We're not going to go to the treadmill, we're not going to go anywhere. So we're gonna show you how you can warm up from the very basic stuff you need to start with, what we call the primary components of health and fitness. It's about getting to warm up. The things you used to see guys do, guys like me who grew up in the gym, guys like your boss who grew up in the gym. I'm sure your boss must have been your very good motivator, but anyway. So guys, time for us to start the workout, and this part of the workout we're going to start with the jumping jacks. This time around I'm revealing everything, and we're going for a jumping jacks 3 sets until we sweat, then we go to the next one. Ready to go, everybody? Counting down. Phil, you know the jumping jacks?
Yes, I do.
All right. So I'm going to explain something very briefly, quickly. Jumping jacks are meant to warm the entire body. it means that you're warming the lower part of the lower chambers of the body and the upper chambers of the body. And the first thing we're going to do is to get hands to go like this. So when the arms go like this, spread like this, one, your lat muscles here are expanding, right? And your chest muscle here are expanding. Your shoulder here is working, right? Now, why we do jumping jacks always very quickly is because a lot of the time when we sit during the day, you're working, so you exert a lot of pressure on your shoulder. So many people end up with headaches. Headaches, like I explained it in the video, headaches, okay, or headache. You get that because you've been sitting poorly through the workout or through your time of working. So a lot of times you get tired here and then you get headaches, you don't know what is happening. So the first thing we want to do so that when we work out, we don't get headache afterward, all right? And it will free you up so that your mind is in the right place. So that's what we're going to start with. And then when you're doing the jumping jacks, you have to do this. So fifth, we're starting our workout. So you want to put yourself half a meter, like 1 foot apart. Good, so we just do things, bouncing it, 1, 2. So you start by warming up your ankles, because if you don't, you're likely going to tear. You know, these are some of the body parts or lower chambers of the body that get injured very easily. So I want you to go like this. So when you stretch like this, you're stretching your ankles, making sure that your calf is working. In itself is already a workout. So we're warming it up, ready to go, Phil? Yes. So I want you to just do like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to cross a hand, 3, cross your hand, across. 1, yes, no, left, good, good, very good. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 8, okay, 12, okay, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So that's one set we have done, right? We're warming the lower chambers, the upper part of the back. A lot of people get a lot of pain when they just, jump onto the treadmill and start running, or when they're running on the road, they always get pain here, right? Because you didn't warm it right. Good. So Philip, distance. We're doing social distancing when we're working out so that you don't say these guys are not serious. Okay, so I want you to just do like this. Ready? All right, so we're going to a jumping jacks. 3, 2, 1, we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. On your toes. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 40. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those are how many? Philip, those are how many? You can see Philip is already running out of breath. You get it? And he's a trainer. So if a trainer is running out of breath, what does that tell you? So I want to explain something again. I keep talking about this. We call it cardiorespiratory capacity. Okay? Ability of our body to take in oxygen, respiration, circulation of the oxygen is what we're doing here. Okay, so you see we're running out of breath quickly, but we're warming up. That's just a warm up. All right, we're going to the next set. Ready to go? Philip, I want you to cross here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's go. Ready? Come on, let's go. 1, left, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Okay? That's the second set. We're still warming up.
Yes.
Okay? That's the very basic part of the workout. You get it?
Yep.
All right. Come on, Phil. Next. I want you to explain again. We're going back to jumping jacks. Set number 2. Again, our target is to do 60 by 3 sets. Okay? 60 by what? 3 sets. All right? So that's what you do. Very basic of a workout. First part. If I want to get your hand here, up, 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 because I want this shoulder to work. So create a ditch here so that you've stretched them up. That means that the contraction is completely complete. You get it? Yeah. Let's go, come on. 3, down. So you have to prepare yourself. Ready? So prepare yourself for the workout. Relax. Ready? Yep. All right. 3, 2, 1. We go. Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want you to look just at 6, 7. This side. 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 40. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Philip is almost dead, guys. Come on. What up, man? Huh? What's the problem?
When you start a project, definitely, if it's a good idea, it has gone through the development process, then you start what we call in fundraising as an institution or even an individual who has a creative project. There is what they call fundraising, and that is if it's a public good, it's a common activity. If it's a business, that's a different thing. So when you're doing a business, creative business project, you're not asking for funding, you're asking for investment. People just get turned off by just being asked. You know, you just come and say, Faizo, give me money. I'm like, who are you? You know?
Why should I give you?
Why should I?
What is it?
How do I get them to know that I exist? You're not asking yet, but you're just trying to check to test the waters and see how whether it's possible. I've met Faizo. I know Eddie. We've had a conversation. I trust what he's going to do.
Yeah.
So that trust is built within that asking. Honestly, the money is there. There's a lot of money, and those who know how to find it, they always find it. But then you find others saying, "Oh, that one is taking our money." Yet you didn't make an effort to find it. We have sleepless nights. I wake up at 2 a.m. to write applications, proposals. I try to balance my office daytime and my fundraising time and all the other things. So you really have to make an effort. The US has just put out a call. The State Department has just put out a call for support for a collaborative grant between the US and Uganda. It's for institutions, it's for individuals, for practitioners that are interested in exchanging ideas and knowledge between US and Uganda specifically. And it's quite between $5,000 to $50,000. So it's available. I talked about earlier about the SCP fund, which was introduced already here in Uganda before COVID, I think. And finally, we got British Council and HEVA managing this fund for East Africa. So the call is almost out. I think they'll put it out in May or June. And when that call comes out, you can apply for like 180,000 euros for 3 years, that you can do whatever you want to do. It's both institutional and for individual projects.
Please share it far and wide. We are live on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. And this information will always remain there. You can watch the show anytime. You can share it far and wide. And Faizo will be back here next week. We'll be talking about investment into the creative industry and how we can go about it and who needs what, where, when, how. We'll be talking about it next week. Until next week, Eddie Okello, Faizo Chiwewa, the founder and the CEO of Baobab Foundation, we're signing out on the Creative Talk.
Welcome to This Week. Our speaker is Steinar Bilna from the Opera House in Iceland.
Dear friends and colleagues far away, my name is Steinar and I'm the CEO and Artistic Director of the Icelandic Opera. My name means someone who loves stones, and I wear that name proudly as it was my grandmother's, and she was the most loving and resilient person I have known. I was only 7 years old when I found my mojo, so to speak, and knew I wanted to become a musician. I was listening to the radio with my father in the garage and heard a piano sonata for the first time and knew what I wanted to do when I grew up. I've spent most of my professional life as a concert pianist, until I started the Reykholt Music Festival in a rural area in Iceland that has its 25th anniversary this year. In 2010, I became the artistic director of Harpa, and a few years later the CEO and director of the Icelandic Opera. It gives me joy every single day to see young musicians start their careers in music and performing arts and to be able to give them their first opportunities to share their talents with the audiences. Nothing can compare with that. Iceland is called the land of fire and ice for a good reason, since we have active volcanoes as well as quite a few glaciers and more than enough of snow in the winter. Being located in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, close to the Arctic Circle, means that we will never be too warm here in Iceland, but never too cold either, since we have the Gulf Stream to keep us warm, not to mention all the volcanoes like the one that's erupting right now since March, and possibly will be going on for years. The Vikings came from Norway some 1,000 years ago, and some say they were looking for America, but lost their way and found Iceland instead. Lucky guys. We are only 370,000 people in the whole country, which means we are pretty much one big family. And our most important cultural heritage is the sagas that were written on calfskin very long time ago, but we can still read them since the language has not changed that much. In recent years, music has become the most important art form in Iceland, and apart from the classical musicians and singers, we have very many well-known pop musicians like Björk, who the whole world has fallen in love with. I would say that there are more artists and musicians in Iceland per capita than probably any other country I know of, and I think it's probably because we are encouraged to be creative from very early age. And since we don't have a lot of warmth and sun and good weather like you do, we have to find something fun to do inside, and what better than music, arts and storytelling. So how did Harpa come about? It was a dream for a whole century, and it has opened up a whole new dimension in our cultural life that we've never known before. It is the home of all the leading music events and festivals in the country. In this photo, taken in 1923, you see the very first concert hall built in Iceland, so you can see for yourselves what an incredible difference it has been for us in just the last century. We have a relatively short history of the performing arts, but they are becoming more and more important in our cultural life as time passes on. In 2008, we had a bank crash in Iceland that was a huge shock to everyone in the country. Harpa was half built at the time, and there was a real talk of tearing it down, since it would cost too much money. But fortunately, the brave decision to finish the building was made by the cultural minister at the time, Katrín Jakobsdóttir, who is now our Prime Minister. And needless to say, the whole nation is very grateful to her for that, since the time after the bank crash, we needed culture the most. Like I mentioned, Harpa has brought us a new dimension in every way as a world-class cultural center and has attracted many cultural tourists that would not have chosen Iceland as their destination if it wasn't for the concert hall. Of course, the volcano is a big attraction as well, but as you can see in this photo, the difference between the old and the new venue is enormous, and it is impossible to fully describe the impact it has had on our cultural life and performing arts. So now let's take a quick peek into the halls of Harpa, our cultural bridge to the world.